Don't boo us, we're residents of Lantana, but we've had the privilege of being able to facilitate these forums for the last 3 years, and we just love you guys. We love Bartonville. We consider it a privilege to be here. You've got an amazing community with a lot of really special things about it, and so we're excited to hear what you want to know about today, what the candidates have to say as to how you're going to keep it moving forward in a successful way. Just kind of how this is going to go tonight. This is a question and answer forum. This is not a debate. So the candidates, there's no expectation you're going to be debating each other on issues. We're going to basically start by having an opening statement where you will all have 2 minutes to basically tell the audience, the potential voters, about your candidacy and why you're running. We will start with Ms. Nelson over there and go this way, and then we're going to do a 2-minute closing statement at the end, and we're going to go the opposite way, starting with Mr. Traylor going the other way. After we're done with our opening statements, we're going to switch the timer to 1 minute, and we're going to ask a series of questions. These are questions that you all submitted to us. We have not edited the content of the questions. We only edited it from the perspective of trying to combine themes and make sure that everything you asked is in fact asked of the candidates, but we don't want to do it several times with minor nuances. So that's what we did. We probably have, I bet you we have pretty close to 18, 20 questions, so it'll be a full night. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer every question. You'll each be given 1 minute. If for some reason a candidate mentions another candidate, even though this isn't a debate, that candidate will have 30 seconds to respond and speak to whatever was said about them. So that's kind of how this is going to go tonight. If there's not any questions or concerns, or if I haven't forgot anything, there's a timer here that Suzanne will start. It will run down and it will beep when your time is up. We do ask you to wrap up when you're done. We have the ability to give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning, but I want to ask the candidates, do you want that, or would you rather just watch the timer? Because sometimes that can be distracting when we're holding up paper. Do you have a preference? Okay, you watch the timer? Okay, fair enough. Then that's how we'll go. So with that, we'll start with Ms. Nielsen, and for your opening comments, we'll go right down the road.
Hi, everybody. I grew up in an area surrounded by orange groves and cattle pastures. We had 4th of July barbecues and with neighbors and family. The relaxed atmosphere of the summer days, the concern for our local farmers, the affordable prices, and the caring local government were fond memories of my childhood. So as the years went by, city government cycled through. Developers moved in and they literally paved over all that beauty of my childhood. High-rises replaced orange groves. The auto dealer paved over the land that made the surrounding areas rurally unique and relaxing and family-friendly. For years, my husband and I searched for a town that allowed us to raise our 3 children in a similar atmosphere, and we couldn't find it for the longest time. We had the privilege to grow up in that, and we finally knew we were home when we found Bartonville. We love the people, the open spaces, the small town feel, and how safe it is. Therefore, it is my #1 priority now to keep Bartonville's country look and the land use plan, that it's supported and that it's carried out. While all this is important to the citizens of Bartonville, it is also important to me and my family. You're what makes this town thrive, you're what makes this town safe, and you're what inspires me to serve, and I look forward to doing that as a town council member. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Harry Otto, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening. My family and I have lived in Bartonville for 8 years. I'm a big believer in public service. I've been on the Bartonville Zoning and Planning Commission for the last 4 years. I also helped charter our local Lions Club. The Lions Club is one of the world's largest charitable service organizations, and it's been my pleasure to be its president since its inception. More recently, I joined the Saddlebrook Homeowners Association as one of its board members. My tenure with the Zoning Commission has given me a lot of insight into some of the issues currently facing Bartonville. Also, my working with the Saddlebrook Association has shown me that Saddlebrook has problems that are unique to that community and that need to be addressed at the town council level. I have an MBA from Pepperdine University, and I had a successful career with Panasonic and Samsung. In 2002, I bought an office machine business in Louisville, and I continue to grow and cultivate that business today. I believe that my business experience and civic service provide me with great qualifications to serve you in the Bartonville Town Council. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name, oh, that was loud. I'll quiet myself down. Doesn't happen very often. My name is Sherry Pounds. I've lived in Bartonville for just over 3 years, and yes, I am Australian, but Australians are just British Texans. It's okay. I live on Barrington Hills at the moment, and I just bought 80 acres on Rockgate Road. I happily saved it from a developer that had a backup offer in for the land. I bought this land to realise my dream of owning and running an equestrian centre, and I can't imagine a more beautiful, welcoming place to do it than here in Bartonville, horse-loving rural Bartonville. My main goal here would be to represent the residents of Bartonville, not my own opinion on anything, not what's best for me, but the citizens of Bartonville. That's all of you that are in this room, the people that couldn't make it tonight, and a lot of the residents that don't even know that this is going on. You might find that surprising, but when I had my CUP application in and I asked some people to come and support me in front of town council, I got many questions about, well, where is the town hall? So I would like to try and take it to the broader Bartonville community and help other people that aren't as involved as you guys understand what's going on. My number one is to treat all people with respect, whether you're the staff member from Tractor Supply, a fellow town council member, or a resident coming before town council. There are ways to disagree without resulting to rudeness and bullying. I look forward to hearing the questions tonight and look forward to hopefully representing you. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jeff Traylor. I've been on the City Council now for 5 years. I've lived in Bartonville for only 26 years. On the City Council, we've been challenged by many things, and my focus, and mainly the Council's focus over these years, have been to the term Keep Bartonville Country. It's a wonderful term. We drive to it every day, but the term needs to be supported in other ways that we do things, such as the knowledge of the master use plan, knowledge as to the impact of allowing things to occur, like sewer to occur in the town, zoning districts, taxations. There are so many things that we do on a monthly basis to try to prevent the town from being put into a position so that we can protect it and allow it to be country, rural, farmland, or open spaces. That's been my focus. I'll continue to drive that focus. So from the standpoint of what are we doing now? What are we currently trying to push towards? Things that we're trying to make? Well, one of the biggest changes we made originally was communication. If y'all all now know, we have the emails that go out. We also send out things that are directly to you. Hard copy, so it shows up in your mailbox so you know what's going on. We try in every way to communicate with signs. We increase the size of signs so that people wouldn't drive by them and make mistakes about zoning changes and zoning requests. Things that you would see and then be able to say, I need to be involved. So that's what we've done, that's what I've done, and that's what I'll just continue to try to do. Thank you.
Thank you all. Can you hear me speaking into this mic? We're okay? Okay, great. So let's change the timer to 1 minute, and we're going to go and start our questions now. Each candidate will have an opportunity to start and finish the questions, and what we'll do is we'll let each person go first. We'll just keep rotating right down the table who goes first on a question. So why don't we start with Mr. Otto, go first on this question, and then we'll go right around. You each get 1 minute. There were several questions that talked about what major improvements do you think Bartonville needs, and what would you maintain or change about the community as it relates to those improvements?
Well, I think that road improvements are one of the top priorities in the town, and I know that this is something that the town council has had as a top priority for the past few months. I know that they're talking about doing road improvements quickly, perhaps using some type of bond or a financial instrument to do that, and that's something that I would support. Thank you.
Good. Ms. Powell.
I I think the roads is definitely one that's high on the priority list, but it's also already high on the town's council priority list, and they recently passed funding to approve that. You know, the other thing I'd like to see is more communication, and the staff do a fantastic job of keeping up the website and posting to various social media, but I don't hear a lot of involvement from the greater Bartonville community, and I'd like to see us improve that.
I guess I'll beat the streets for a minute. Yeah, the streets are a huge one. They're our largest investment endeavor the city makes. I could go into real quick, but right now we're doing a large number of streets in this 5-year plan. Over the last year and a half, we've worked out a 15-year road plan so that we're able to take the monies that we can borrow for cheaply, be able to afford to pay for the roads off that we work on every 5 years, so that at the end we have a 15-year road with a 5-year note, so that we're not, as we were prior to the current council, having a note that was 15 years on a 10-year road. That was one of our biggest pushes. Communication's always been big. Like I said, I mentioned the signs. You notice the signs at every street corner now saying early voting and all that. Those weren't things that just happened. Those are the mentality of the current council. So, thank you.
I guess to piggyback off all of you, definitely the roads, and I know there's a plan for that, and I'm excited about that. I'm in Saddlebrook, so it was lovely to see Dove Creek get paved. I think community outreach and communication is awesome. Like, seeing all your faces out here just makes me smile. I'm all about socializing and getting to know people in the community, so you being here just makes me happy and passionate about continuing that. Last, I would love, you know, as a mom and a wife with kids, to see increased just Bartonville community events, you know, at the town center. I think that would make me just so happy, and I've spoken to so many of you and met with lots of families, and they'd like to see that as well, where we can just come together as a community and as families and be involved.
Great. Thank you. Next question, and I think Ms. Bounds, you'll go first on this one, is would you like more police 24/7, or do you feel our current staffing for police services is adequate?
I'm a fairly facts-driven person. What I think we need to look at is what is the crime rate versus how we support that crime rate with our policing. We have a very, very small budget in Bartonville, and we need to prioritize that budget. And if the crime rate is not there to support 24-hour or additional police, then that's not where we should be allocating our dollars. That change.
We sent out a survey recently, and the surveys asked specific questions on the police department. And the reason that went out was because we really wanted to know exactly how the town felt about it. We were getting confused somewhat, knowing which group wanted what, so we decided we'd do the survey. Survey came back, said, keep it the way that it is. And that's how we budgeted it. If it comes up that crime increases and we have to add more, we will add more police officers. We will change the budget. We will make the prioritizations the way they need to be. But right now, the town likes what they are, and that's what we're going to stay with.
After meeting with my neighbors and surrounding communities, I know that safety and crime control is an issue, and I am so proud to be on the Crime Control and Prevention Board because it is a passion. Of course, having a family with kids playing in the streets and walking to 7-Eleven and riding their bikes, you know, that's a priority. I work with at-risk teenagers and families and suicidal teenagers with depression. And I also work with teenagers with drug issues, and I want to make sure that they are held accountable. So I work directly with the police department in Bartonville and Argyle ISD. So it will always be a priority for me as the budget allows. Right now, I think it dictates, statistics dictate that we're great where we are, but I think it should always be looked at and addressed and assessed.
Well, I agree that with our low crime rate, we probably don't need to add police now, but that can change in the future. And currently, the police department consumes about 25% of the general fund's budget. Adding police is expensive. at least $200,000 a year when you look at salaries and equipment and training and so on. So I think we need to look carefully before we add new police. It should be a long-term investment, and we should have the funds available to support additional police before we make a change.
Thank you. Let's just make a little bit of a shift here, and let's talk a little bit about traffic and drivers. So the question is, Bartonville has been significantly impacted by traffic and drivers who appear to have little regard and respect for safety, property, and quality of life. What are your views on strictly enforcing our current speed limits and retaining our ban on large commercial vehicles? So Mr. Trailer, I think you're first up.
First of all, a minute to give you an answer is so difficult. I mean, it's stressful, but let's go with the traffic issue. One of the things I've given my opinion to the police department is we don't need to spend our heavy time out on 407. It needs to be on our side streets in our neighborhoods, and we do need to strictly enforce our 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. The state's considering lowering that number even further that will be mandated to have to set it at. So 30 miles per hour is a state limit, not so much something that we've set. So kind of keep that in mind. And to answer back to Harry's thing, the police department's roughly close to 50%, 45-ish of our budget. So just FYI.
Just real quick before you start, you were mentioned, Mr. Otto. Would you like to respond?
I believe it was about 25% of the general fund.
Okay. 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 Very good. Go ahead, Ms. Nick.
So in regards to traffic, it's already becoming more congested, right, with Lantana and now Argyle growing. So I think it's definitely something as a town council member, I will be keeping my eye on, and I think it's something we need to continue to bring to the table. Again, I have all the faith in our police department and Chief Dow to do what he needs to. I see him on our residential streets all the time, and I would love to see him there more. I also see them on 407, Officer Lauren. So I definitely, they have the visibility, and I think it's something that we will have to continue to look at as the 407 corridor grows and Argyle begins to take over all of that land. So it should remain a priority.
Well, traffic is a big deal, particularly in Saddlebrook. There's a lot of traffic moving eastbound to westbound in the mornings, and with the Water Chase and Hat Creek developments, there'll be traffic moving from east to west to get to Marty B's and Grapes to Wine and so on. So there's a lot of concern about traffic in Saddlebrook. We've talked about a number of ways to mitigate that. One was blocking off Noble Champions, so that traffic would have to go around Fox Run and then to Dixon. Some residents didn't like that idea. Then we talked about speed bumps, but the fire department and city engineer have concerns with that. So we don't have clear answers. That's why we need representation from Saddlebrook on the town council to help expedite solutions to these types of problems.
We call the section between Argyle and the Kroger the 407 racetrack. As much as I agree that we need to enforce speed limits in the smaller residential streets, we need to target 407 as well. I think most of the accidents that happened last month were because of that intersection, just where the new Tractor Supply is going to go. So that's a very important street for us to monitor and keep control of. Some of the things I really like that we've got in Bartonville is those narrower streets that help keep those speeds down. Obviously, some people will still want to race through them anyway. And as much as you may all love or hate the cyclists, they do have a certain restriction for the speeds people go. I personally love to see the cyclists and think that's part of what makes this so special as a community, that people want to come and ride around here. I ran out of time.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Let's stay on the topic of enforcement and talk a little bit about fireworks. Bartonville is the only city in the area, or town in the area, that allows fireworks, so anyone wanting to shoot off fireworks legally comes here. Do you favor leaving this as is, or would you like to eliminate or modify fireworks in Bartonville? And I believe we're to Ms.
Yeah, so fireworks. I definitely grew up in the Reagan era and fireworks, and you know, where I grew up, they finally had to outlaw, you know, aerial fireworks, such as like bottle rockets, things like that, and allow communities to enjoy, you know, the fireworks that would, you know, be appropriate for a backyard and families and barbecues. So. Again, I want to hear from the people. It's not about me and how I grew up. That's just, you know, I think it's all American to have fireworks, but also we're in a rural area and I love our animals and I know that's going to affect them on some level. So I look forward to hearing from you all. I think that's where city council, we have to put, or town council, we need to put our feelings aside and hear from you and what your desire is, and majority would need to rule on that.
Well, everyone loves fireworks, especially big, noisy fireworks. And many of the properties in Bartonville are big, so there's a lot of people that blow off fireworks during 4th of July, even if the town has a burn ban and fireworks aren't supposed to be used on that day. I think it would be a good idea to have professional fireworks at the Bartonville Town Center during a 4th of July event where all the citizens can enjoy the fireworks and it's done in a safe and controlled way.
Well, that's a hot topic, isn't it? You know, the passion that comes from fireworks on both sides is kind of shocking to me. But on the side of we don't want fireworks, there are a lot of our community members that are ex-service people and have PTSD. And this terrifies them. Not to mention, we are a rural community. We have a ton of animals that are also terrified by fireworks. And I love fireworks as much as anyone. If you've ever seen New Year's Eve in Sydney, it is fireworks spectacular and it is beautiful. But it is too much for a small town and too much for the residents with PTSD and our animals.
It's been brought before the council. We've had discussions over it. Pros, cons. I've not received, I can't remember receiving any emails or phone calls in support of it or against it. I'm a landowner rights kind of guy. I mean, it's your land. If you've got the room and you keep it on your land, then do it on your land. And if you blow it up on somebody else's land, yes. If there's a burn ban in effect and you're doing it, yes, absolutely, we need to stop it from happening. But again, we have the room, you own the land, you should be allowed to do it unless there's an upheaval in the town that says stop it, and then we'll stop it.
Thank you very much. Let's switch a little bit here and talk about sidewalks and roads. All of you, I think, mentioned at some level roads in your opening statement. But maybe you can answer the questions that came forward. It says, will you support improving existing roads in Bartonville? How will you fund this? And then specifically, there was an interest on input on McMakin Road and keeping it 2 lanes. So somehow if you can integrate all 3 of those topics, the topics are you committed to improving them? How will you fund it? And input on McMakin Road staying 2 lanes. That is your turn, Ms. Mel. You're first, yes. Yes, ma'am. You. Yes, Ms. Mel.
So confusing.
Sorry about that. The moving target.
It is. Yeah, we've touched on roads a little bit already, so I'll make this brief. I mean, I think the plan before that just got approved by Town Council is a good one and the funding is good. I don't support widening McMakin at this point. We want to keep the control of the traffic here and McMakin really does help doing that. Did I miss one?
Just how you would fund it was the third component.
Well,
but you
what's
said
already
that
done
they
is
put,
funded.
they put a plan together.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, the current funding, the way that we're doing roads are important is that we're simply enough, we're taking the cash reserves that we have, we're putting it into a kind of a state-funded taxation interest rate that'll actually pay more money than what we're paying on the loan that we're doing for the streets themselves. So that's how we're funding it. We're actually making more money than we're spending on interest. Widening McMakin, it's a non-starter, but we also have to understand that to a degree we are limited by the county because the road is considered it's not a pass-through, there's another term for it. And so the county has a lot of control over that road. That's why its speed limit is 40 miles an hour. We didn't set that. It gets set beyond us. So just kind of keep that in mind. But no, I'm against widening it.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, I agree. I don't think there's a need to widen McMacken Road. As far as the rest, sidewalks and streets, again, go back to our land use plan and follow that. And the budget is there to take care of our streets, which we already discussed. So I don't really have any more to add.
Well, what more can I say? I think there have been issues on McMakin Road, particularly at that Hawk intersection where there are large culverts at the shoulder, and I've had reports, heard reports of accidents and so on. But there's no easy solution to that because the property's private, and unless we make big changes to the road, it's difficult to mitigate. And I agree we shouldn't widen the road beyond where it is now.
Thank you. Appreciate the clear answers. So let's talk sidewalks just for a sec. Double Oak recently put sidewalks along 407 to the Bartonville border. And the question is, do you support Bartonville continuing that sidewalk to at least Kroger Shopping Center and possibly to Bartonville Town Center? Do you have any thoughts on that? So Mr. Trailer, I think it's your turn.
I would say no. I don't see where it benefits the majority of the citizens of our town to spend that money. That money can be spent other places. Someone had mentioned to me once about putting sidewalks in the town. As lovely as that would be, the cost that would do, it would wipe out our budget. I mean, it would wipe us out from that standpoint. We don't have the ability to do it. Plus, we don't have the drainage easements around the town to be able to widen the streets or be able to make an area large enough to put a sidewalk in. So we would end up having to touch tons of citizens and then in the end, take away land from the citizens to make it so we could put in the sidewalk to begin with. And again, I'm not a proponent of them doing any of that.
Yeah, I believe, sidewalks are great and they're an extra amenity, but you always have to constantly, as a town council member in a town, be willing to balance amenities with budget. So right now, I think we're good as we are. In future, if you want to look at it, great, but I think we have other concerns we need to address and stick to our budget right now and our land use. And yeah, I think.
Well, aside from the costs, I believe that Bartonville should be kept rural, and sidewalks probably aren't a part of that rural atmosphere, so I would be against adding sidewalks.
I'll tell you truthfully, I don't know at this point. I've not heard that in my discussions with people that that's a burning need, and if I did hear it was a burning need or request from the residents, then we'd have to find out what it costs, what land it did impact, and then make decisions then. I don't have the information to give you an answer tonight on it, but I'd be happy to look into it if that is a need of the community.
Okay. Thank you. Let's switch topics and talk just a little bit about financial sustainability, if I can get it out. And then we'll probably spend the rest of our time about zoning and density, so just so you know where it's coming. But where do you foresee being able to collect additional revenue, tax revenue, while keeping Bartonville country? And I believe Ms. Melson, you're.
Yeah, that's a great question. What I love about Bartonville, the town of Bartonville, is its transparency, and you can go to the website and see the budget, which is 1.8 million, I believe. So you can look anytime to see how things would fit in the budget, and ask me that again, sorry. Can you?
So the question was, do you have any thoughts on new or additional revenue? Gotcha. And where that could potentially come from while keeping Bartonville country? Right.
So if you look at the land use plan, there are plans for the 407 corridor for some, additional development that's already in play. We've got Tractor Supply that's going to bring in a decent amount of revenue as well. So again, go right back to the plan. It's all on there. I can recite it if you would like, but you'd be asleep in about 30 minutes. But I would stick to the plan. I support it, and that will allow the additional revenue we need as a town.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
I agree we should stick with the comprehensive use plan. If new businesses have an interest in joining our Bartonville community, they need to conform to the current septic and zoning plans that we have. And I think we need to be very strict on
What
holding.
is the status of the reserves, and when do you think they should be spent, under what types of circumstances? And I believe, where do we leave off? Mr. Allen, I think you're first on this.
I don't know the status of our current reserves, but if we have surplus funding, I think that we should work on ways to help bring the community together, perhaps an annual event. There was a Bartonville Spirit Day that was done years ago that a lot of people enjoyed. That's something we might consider doing again for our town.
I would like to see the surplus we have available kept in reserve for things that maybe we would need. We nearly had, we had the threat of tornadoes and flooding the other day. These would be things that I would see that we might want to spend a rainy day reserve on, actual rainy days, I guess. There is a budget surplus. We should all have that in our town, in our houses, etc.
Over the years, we've had the conversation as to how much should a town have to operate on. And if you ask some of the town administrators, they will say 90 days worth of funds. And I find that ludicrous. I think a town, if some catastrophic event happens, a town should be able to operate for months on its reserve if it had to. We do have a surplus at this moment. It's spread out amongst different accounts for everything from crime control through road maintenance to the general fund that's held out. The reason that I believe we have that is for things such as we had some culverts in town. It seems simple, but the culverts had failed and the road underneath it started to fail, and we had to do an emergency repair. It wasn't in our budget, it wasn't allocated for it, and they were $48,000 for each one of them. So it doesn't take long for that funds to just go away. So, time ran out.
Yeah, after studying, I know we do have reserves, and we have a good amount, and I think it's necessary. Again, I would agree that for catastrophic emergencies, it's a necessity. I know personally our family has savings, and I encourage everybody to have savings, and I just think it's smart. So I kind of concur with everyone and keep it there. No need to spend it.
Very good. So let's go to what we received the most questions on, and we'll try to consolidate them where we can. But let's start by saying that, and it's an obvious statement, that mainly high-density Lantana-type developments are occurring all around Bartonville now, also in Argyle as well, and they're rapidly closing in. What does keep Bartonville country mean to you in the light of that reality? And I believe it's Mrs. Powell.
You know, we have a really good land use plan, and if we can stick to that land use plan, we will be successful in keeping the developers out of Bartonville. Now, reality is there are people that own acreage in Bartonville that are going to want to sell and are going to want to realize some of the value that they've held on to for 20, 40, 60 plus years. We do need to allow these people to sell their land, and not everybody has the money to buy these 40, 60 acre developments, pieces of land. So within the land use plan, we need to allow some movement there. Sticking to the plan, sorry.
Bartonville's broken up into 2 and 5 acres. That's how the whole town is, everything that's residential, that's what it will end up being at some point or another. If a developer comes in and wants to buy a piece of land and they want to break it down to that, in my opinion, as much as it sounds bad, I'm happy for them to do it, because once they've done it, that land is now safe. It can't, another council can't come in and say, we're going to do half-acre lots and open up the land. I'm much happier with 2 and 5 acre lots everywhere through Bartonville. I would love to see the open land, but every time I see large open land, I see an opportunity for someone to come in. That's the reason why we voted against moving sewer across the street, was because it was just one other opportunity for someone to come in and say, look, we can now drag sewer down that street, and now I can do a high-density subdivision in it because it's one less hurdle that's been removed. So again, that's my idea.
Sorry. Drove it to the very end, now we have to listen to the beat. We're good. Everything's fine. Did I win? No, just kidding. Just kidding. So yes, I mean, I'm here because I love seeing the open land, I love seeing the animals, I love hearing the donkeys haw-hee-haw all the time. And I'm 100% for staying with the current land use plan. I've studied it extensively, and I love that we have options of the 5 acres and the 2 acres. We already have a community with 1 acre lots. We've got the manufactured home community. We have a diverse enough plan, or excuse me, the city, as far as land, as far as development goes. So I agree in that if you keep it that way, keep it to the land use, keep the 5 acres, keep the 2, it's going to stop people from coming in and wanting to subdivide, which is going to bring lawyers, and which is going to bring a lot of traffic, and it's going to bring a lot of things that we don't want to see. We are so blessed to live in Bartonville, where we can go down to Argyle, we can go down to Highland Village for what we need, and keep this the special rural area that it is. So.
But they don't have Marty B's. I agree with Jeff that with the majority of the land zoned for RE5 and RE2, in theory the town should be protected from high-density development. But there are some homeowners in our town that are blessed with very large acreage, 60, 100-acre tracts. Someday they might want to sell their property. And if they're zoned for, say, RE5, they might be able to get more money if the land's zoned for RE2. So that's something that the town needs to consider as some of these very large properties start to turn over. With respect to other development, sewerage. Sewerage protects this town from high-density development. We absolutely cannot permit sewers to be extended to the 4 corners of McMakin. If we do that, we'll open a Pandora's box of developers who'll be constantly looking to develop high-density properties, and stop.
Yeah, your minute was up.
Oh.
You're actually going to get that question in just a minute, so you got more time to talk about sewers. I don't know why it didn't meet. Oh, okay. Okay, so a segue, and you all, I think, addressed it in part, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to address it in its entirety. Currently, as most of you said, you've got residential 2 versus residential 5 subdivisions, or subdividing. In the future, what do you think the optimum acre lot size should be? Is it right? Would you be open to something different? Maybe just let us know how you feel about that. And I believe we start with Mr. Trailer on this.
James Price Court, those are 3 acres each. It lays out so perfectly. I mean, 3 acres is, in my mind, the best, but the master plan's 2 acres. And it seems acceptable and reasonable to everyone. So changing it, no, I would stand to it. We have been challenged by developers coming in and saying to us that, you know, I've got some of the land is 5 acres, some is 2 acres. How about we make it all 1.5 or something? And I'm going, yeah, no. It's do the 2 acres, but the 5 acres in the back, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be 5 acres back there, so that's what it needs to stay. I mean, so we even had a community. I got 12 seconds that wanted to do a retirement community that wanted to put beautiful homes. It would have been a great use for it. I love the idea, but it would have been all together, high density with some open land. And it was like, nope, it doesn't fit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to sound like broken records. I completely agree. I think Argyle's doing enough development for the both of us. heading down, Dove Creek to Frenchtown, heading out to 377, just seeing those trees down and what's going on just kind of breaks me. I moved here to see rural. I moved here to see country, and I'm telling you, I'm a believer in the plan, and I plan on sticking to it.
Well, I absolutely concur. We need to keep the zoning at minimum RE2 and look at these larger properties, perhaps for rezoning down the future, but no smaller than 2-acre properties.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. We're, I think, all in agreement that we need to keep Bartonville's land use plan where it is, and not bringing the sewer across into the rest of it helps protect that too.
So the next question is, what will you do specifically to ensure that the current zoning laws are retained or strengthened, and that the township remains in its refuge from high-density development? So specific to zoning laws being retained and or strengthened, how would you contribute to that as a town council member? And Ms. Nelson, I think you're...
Yeah, I think letting P&Z do their job and bring that to us, town council, and then assessing from there. But again, it goes back to the plan we have in place and supporting that. And as long as we do that, and P&Z will look to them for that, then it stays the way it is.
Yes. Well, you have a great group of people on the zoning, planning and zoning commission now, and I know that they're dedicated to keeping Bartonville rural. So the residents are safe from that point of view, and I've been on that committee for 4 years, as I mentioned before. So that's a plus. But developers will always present the town with a nice gift box, and here's how much extra revenue we can bring to the town, and so on. But often when you open that gift box, it's a Pandora's box. So it's always something we need to be wary of.
We're nowhere near maxed out on the land use plan that we have in place now, neither commercially or residentially, and I see no reason for us to do anything about that until we are maxed out, which is probably not within any of our lifetimes. I would hope.
You're right, more than likely. The master land use plan, from legal counsel standpoint, for the city, for the town, has always been that if you adhere to it, you consistently support it, and the people who challenge it will have no basis to be able to break it apart. It's when you start to fragment it, creating a ton of little developments, each little piece makes exceptions here and there, that's when the land use plan loses its ability to protect us. Everything that I've seen so far, we have stayed tight to that land use plan, consistently supporting it, consistently communicating it. So from that standpoint, we're safe at the moment. Yeah, we can be sued. Anybody can be sued. But as a town, we have complete legal standings to be able to support the country, the community, the environment that we live in today.
Very good. So we've talked a lot about and around the whole issue of the sewer connection across the street from Kroger into the town. So now we've been asked to ask you, what is your opinion on that, and how do you see that impacting growth and commercial development if you allow it or don't allow it? And I believe we're at Mr.
Well, it limits growth, but that's what we want. That's what the residents want. We want to limit development, and so unless the majority of the residents in the town change their vision about that, as I said before, we shouldn't allow those sewers to be extended.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to hear anything different from anyone up here, but I think it's loud and clear from the residents that they don't want sewerage outside of the Kroger development, and happy to uphold that.
The challenge with sewer is once it makes its way across 407, the original 407, it's able to be pushed. It can be pulled, it can be drug. That allows, as I mentioned before, the ability to have high density. You cannot have high density without having some type of sewer system, and I don't mean standpoint of a septic system or aeration system. That's one of our saving graces, is by being forced to have land, to have your septic on, you force a little bit more room between people. Yes, I am somewhat sympathetic to the businesses that are around behind the Krogers, but they all were built before any option of sewer was ever given to them. So it's not like we're taking anything away from those businesses. And I would much rather limit a positive option for them and create a negative legacy that haunts this town for years to come.
So yes, one thing sewer will do is bring added amenities, but that will be at a cost, and that will be at a cost of losing the country and losing the beautiful land. And again, I have not spoken to one resident here in Bartonville that wants that, and I definitely support keeping it where it is and not bringing it over, and choosing to keep it country here.
Okay. To that end, do you believe all Bartonville businesses should stay close to 407 within your existing plan? And I believe Ms. Patton, you're first on this one.
I think the master land use plan clearly outlines where commercial development can happen, including rural business development. I have trouble with that word. So I think by sticking to, again, the land use plan and where we have zone commercial, we will continue to do what we need to do to keep the town the way it is.
I agree 100%. We do have some commercial that's in the city that's not on 407, so there are other areas of the town. But yes, keeping it where it is, where it's laid out today, is really our best option. It keeps things, like I said, defendable. There's been talk that someone wanted to develop all along 407, and the answer is, you can do that back towards Double Oak and Copper Canyon now, so go there.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've got rural business, that is a hard word to say. Rural light industrial general. We've got what we need to have, and again, I think we all agree. It sounds like that we just want to stick to the current plan and move forward that way.
Yes, we have a carefully crafted, comprehensive land use plan that we need to adhere to. So aside from businesses like Ms. Pounds that are involved with equestrian type of situations, we should keep the majority of the developments along 407.
It's a very nice segue, because the next question is, do you feel it's beneficial to continue to issue permits to future equestrian centers? And if so, what is the limit, or is there a limit? And I believe, Mr. Traylor, you're first up on this.
I don't know that there is a limit. I mean, so far everyone that's been presented to the town council that I've been on, we've approved. It tends to fit in well. Most people they're small operations. They augment the need of local residents and some other people. It fits well. It works for those around it. We do have some people that have great concerns over the ones that are right next to them. Yet, with a little bit of input and a little bit of additional controls, they can all coexist well together, and that's the key. You have to be able to live by your neighbor and have not one neighbor control over the other. And if you can do that, it's great. If not, then the city has to step in and help.
Yeah, Bartonville, again, is about horses, right, and equestrian centers and things like that. And as long as it fits in with the atmosphere of Bartonville, and it, aesthetically works, and, of course, neighbors have every right to come complain, and that's fine, and we want to hear them too, but as long as it's zoned appropriately so, and again, it goes with the plan, I bring it. I think it's great.
I would concur with that. In some cases, though, these equestrian businesses may be placed around residential development. So in that case, we need to carefully consider the rights of the residents that live around the community. There's lighting concerns, noise concerns, dust concerns, traffic concerns. All of those things need to be considered before we approve new equestrian developments. But aside from that, if there's conformity, I welcome it.
Right outside of Bartonville, as you drive in, near the Kroger there's horse statues. I think that says it all. Bartonville is a horse community. And again, as long as we make sure that the number of horses to the amount of land is appropriate, as well as manure and dust, etc. are controlled, I love seeing the horses around here, and I hope to see more soon.
Very good. So the next question is, in the case of a neighbor dispute regarding a property line or a current road, I'm assuming a rural road, that's in place where there's no written rules or any sort of policy in place, how would you recommend that they resolve that? So that was the question that was put forth, and I believe Ms. Nelson, you're first up.
Well, if it's a neighbor issue on their property, I would say you need to handle that issue. If it's a town issue and it's going against an ordinance, and there's an ordinance that's in play or in question, then we need to follow that. If there's an ordinance or something that needs to be looked at or rewritten or made, then they can bring it to town council and we'll look at that and go from there. But I'm really all for neighbors trying to work it out with neighbors.
Yeah, of course, that'd be the first step, is try to get the neighbors to resolve the issue amicably. There's plenty of space, between the homes, so I'd be surprised if there were a lot of issues between neighbors. But if there were, the first step might be to call the town administrator, Mike Montgomery, see if there are any ordinances that come into play, and if not, there's always moving up the ladder to the town council.
Yeah, I find it a bit hard to answer that one, not having any facts around what the disagreement is. I think what you'd have to do is look at the facts, the rules, the laws, the ordinances, and work it out that way.
Yes, that's exactly what you end up doing. You try to get the people to work together. If they can't work together and there is an easement or there is a right-of-way and there is a point where the city has reason to have to step in, then the city does. And we've done it in the past. And there's been times where we're not so much involved and we've tried to get the two parties to work together. But since it would require that if we decided to step in and do something, then we'd have to end up stepping on both landowners. And again, but we've never have done that. So from that standpoint, work together. But if the city has an obligation based upon its codes, easements, we have to act. We have to act in the best interest, because if we don't defend our easements, then we're a subject.
Did everybody get a chance at that one? I lost track. Okay, excellent. All right, we're down to our last structured question before closing comments. And if I did this right, we've got two individuals running for two districts sitting next to each other, Ms. Traylor and Mr. Traylor, Ms. Pound, and Mr. Otto and Mr. Nelson. And so I would like you to share, you've been asked to share with the folks here, what would you do differently than your opponent? We had a lot of unanimity tonight. There's a lot of singular vision, and this community is clearly squared away on where it wants to go. But is there something you'd like to maybe say that you might do a little different or approach a little different than your opponent? And we'll start with, where did we start last time? We'll just start with Ms. Nelson. How's that? Because we're going to start with this.
I love Harry. I love Harry. He has a sweet family. All I can speak to is because integrity and respect are just the foundation of who I am. So all I can speak to is what I would do for you. I have been involved grassroots-wise in politics for a long time, and it's really about the people for me. So all I can tell you is what I would bring to the table, and that would be listening to you. My background is psychology, and I love to meet with people, and I love to hear you, and I love to really understand you. I love talking and personally engaging with the citizens. It's what I do. I'd love to be mayor someday. It'd be great. I love our mayor, but that's my goal. I love to listen to your concerns. I love to listen to your suggestions. I like to thoroughly research. I am a researcher. I have a PhD, and my dissertation was 150 pages on some very distinctive issues. And research, I'm all about research. So people, research, and stop. All right.
Mr. Otto, anything you'd like to emphasize that you might do different in your approach different?
Well, I'd have to fall back on my business experience. I might be dating myself, but I've been in the business world for more than 35 years. And I've been involved with managing the financial aspects of businesses for quite a long time. And running a town isn't that different than a business. You have revenues coming in, expenses coming out. You need to judiciously manage that money, and you need experience to do that. So I believe that I have the experience to contribute as your representative on the town council.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bowden.
Well, I don't dislike Jeff, even though he may think that, so it's hard for me to put into words this, but from the heart, I think there is a time when you need to put term limits on people. They get very comfortable in positions. I think Jeff's done a great job for the council over the years, but it's time for some fresh blood. It's time for respectful treatment of everyone that comes before the council and polite discourse.
City government is a strange beast. It has two sides. It's the business side of the money, and then the other side is the governments and governing laws that the state of Texas places on us. We have made mistakes. I have made mistakes over the 5 years. But fortunately, I've learned. And fortunately, the city hasn't been the recipient of any major losses because of it. In fact, in the last few years, I feel like I've saved the town a ton of money in reference to roads, road construction, and how we do it and how we haven't done it in the past. So from my standpoint, I look at it as not only am I an investment in your money, your future, but also that your town government is running as efficiently as possible. I'm a numbers guy. I like to kind of stay focused on details. I wish I could be a little more flowery up here for you, but that's just who I am. So that's where I see I can add value and save you time and money.
All right. Well, thank you. That concludes the questions that we received. And so we're going to put the timer back to 2 minutes and give you all an opportunity to close it down tonight and leave the audience with whatever thoughts you think they need to have. So I think we're going to go reverse order and start on this end with Mr. Traylor and move right on down the table for your closing statement. You'll have 2 minutes.
I believe that the town council today, myself, everybody on it, is exceptionally respectful of people. People who have different opinions. I consider people that completely disagree with my position on certain items. I don't have any anxiety with them at all. The town people should have different opinions. We should be able to say, I don't agree with you on that, and then shake hands and go on. I mean, hate has no place in this town. So from that standpoint, I believe I bring that to the town and to the council. We all don't agree on the council, but we do get along and we do get business done. What I bring, and I will continue to, if I'm reelected to this council, is I will bring a sharp focus on ensuring that we run the town as you would want it to be run. Not that we go out and we become frivolous with things, not that we become one-sided. We fall over ourselves making sure that we try so hard to be inclusive on every issue with everyone. Like I said, people don't always agree. I vote on things in a way that I believe the town wants. There are times I have voted on things I didn't want it that way, but I knew the town itself felt that was the way the issue needed to go. And therefore, that's how I voted on it. So from that standpoint, I really hope you understand. I hope you understand that if I'm not elected, I'm going to support the town, I'm going to support the council, because in the end, that's what you're doing. You're here tonight to hope that you can learn some things, hope that you get some insight, and that you're supporting this. And I hope that people come out to vote, because voting is the best show of our town of how much we care about it. So, thank you very much.
You're trying to lose that thing.
Service business in Louisville, and to me, service means serve. You serve your customers. I think from the town council's perspective, you're the customer. You're the customer that the town council should serve. So the town council members should listen to you and do their best to ensure that your feelings and concerns are felt and appreciated and acted upon if necessary. Bartonville is a peaceful, beautiful, serene environment. But it may not be that way forever unless we fight for it. Whoever you elect to serve on the town council needs to ensure that Bartonville stays the way it is today. Thank you.
I put a lot of thought into what I want to say, in closing, and so I wrote a few things down. So American novelist, and this is on the website, Bartonville's website, and I love it. Scott Russell Sanders wrote, "Any community worth living in must have a web of people faithful to good work and one another, or that community will fall apart." And I absolutely stand behind that. And I need your vote so I can be one of those people that keeps this community worth living in. I'm that passionate about it. My home is here in Bartonville. I have found my people here in Bartonville. My husband and I moved our businesses here, and we've enjoyed every year we've been here, and we look forward to many, many more. We look forward to more barbecues and 4th of Julys with our neighbors, summer nights, playing in the cul-de-sac. It's our favorite thing. The faint call of our local donkey 2 houses back, and the rural atmosphere that makes Bartonville so unique. I love our nightly summer walks, our visits with the local animal population along the way. I love being involved supporting local at-risk teens, which I do for a living, and families. And I enjoy serving on Bartonville's Crime Control Board. I also love getting involved, as I am now, with local PTSD veterans, a passion that will always be in my heart. You have no idea what this town means to me, but actually I think you might. I've talked to so many of you, and you've told me it's the same thing. It's the rural quality of this town. I have heard you when you let me know your desire to feel safe, to keep speed limits lower, to continue to fix roads, to keep tax rates low, to not bring in big development. And after watching my favorite childhood stomping grounds disappear within what felt like a blink of an eye, I promised my children I wouldn't let that happen. And it's not gonna happen on my watch. My promise is to keep 2 and 5 acre minimums. My promise is to keep them safe in this incredible family-focused community. And my promise is to keep Bartonville a horse, cow, chicken, goat, fill in the blank community and family-friendly. Last but certainly not least, in fact, most important to so many, my promise is to keep Bartonville rural and country. And I would love your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. I'd like to just, that concludes the forum, but I'd like us all to thank the candidates. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of commitment to run for office, and it is not easy. And these folks have stepped up, and they love this community enough to do that. You have something very special happening in Bartonville, and I know they all want to be a part of keeping it that way. So let's give them a hand and thank them for stepping up. Okay, with that, I think we are concluded here. I imagine the candidates will be around if anybody wants to talk or ask additional questions. And we thank you again for this great opportunity, and go have a good night. Thanks for coming.